If you're poor, here's how to build wealth. I've been broke myself many times and still started businesses that grew past 5 million. How? 3 big concepts: time, skills, and money. Welcome back. In today's video, I will first show you what people miss about money and then give you some step-by-step instructions that you can follow. For the record, this video is not about how much money you have in your bank account. It's about being able to create wealth, and there's a huge difference between the two. But since we all seem to be very interested in money, I wanted to make this video about it. So let's go more into details. But I will start by clarifying these 3 concepts that I mentioned in my intro: time, skills, and money. What is time? It's by far our most valuable resource in life. We all trade time for money. If you are in the beginning of your career, let's say you flip burgers at McDonald's, you are trading your free time for money at the rate of, let's say, $12 an hour, versus a successful entrepreneur at the end of his career could be making $1,500 an hour. That's the difference between time and skills. Skills, what you know, what your capabilities are. Your skills can always be turned into money anytime, anywhere. And then last, money itself. That's how we trade value in life. It's a tool for exchange. The real value is not having a lot of money, but in knowing how to create wealth. That's the difference. Here's where it gets interesting. There is a big difference between rich and poor people, or those people with rich habits versus poor habits, in terms of how they see time, skills, and money. So why do poor stay poor? Let's compare these side by side. So instead of talking about rich people and poor people, I much rather talk about people with rich habits and poor habits, for the record. So people with poor habits, they are willing to spend a lot of time to save a little bit of money. These are the people who can drive to the other side of town to find the cheapest gallon of gas or milk, for that matter. They are willing to allocate all their free time to trivial tasks. So in other words, they spread themselves thin. Because remember this, people always pay in the currency that's the least valuable to them. And to poor people with poor habits, time is the least valuable currency for them. What about people with rich habits? They are willing to, here's the key difference, they're willing to buy time to get skills to make money, in this order. So instead of spending time, they cherish their time at all costs. So they're willing to spend a lot of money, pay a lot of money for time and convenience so that they can focus. And then after that, they can get really good at something. And after that, they can monetize those skills. Because remember, on the previous slide, we talked about how skills can be always turned into money, anytime, anywhere. So that's the big difference. The same example when you take a lottery winner. According to statistics and numbers, 90% of all people who have won the jackpot in lottery, they go broke after 5 years. Why? Because they don't have the skills to make money. They could have a busy, rich bank account, but that doesn't mean that they have the rich people's habits. Okay, you might say, I've heard enough. What's the formula for change? Remember this, today's actions represent tomorrow's cash. And whatever you have today is a combination of yesterday's actions. There's always a link. Buy yourself time, get really good at something, get those skills that you can monetize later. I'll give you a real life example that might bring this home better. Say you own a house with a backyard with 5 apple trees in your garden. What's the difference between people with rich habits versus poor habits? Somebody who has poor people habits would probably pick the ripe apples himself, sell them, and spend the money. What about that person with rich people habits? He or she would probably hire somebody else to do the picking, then use the proceeds from the sale to plant 5 new apple trees in that same garden. So that person is investing in his money-making skills, in his ability to create wealth down the road. And that's really the key point here. That's something you need to understand going forward. So how do I do it in practice? I've highlighted 4 steps for you so that you can follow and get going. Step number 1, pick your goal. Let's use money as an example, creating wealth. which is the headline here. So pick your goal. My goal is to make a lot of money. I want to earn $1 million in 5 years. Okay, clear. Step number 2, understand the trade-offs. Understanding that you have to pick one goal, you have to pick one activity and say no to everything else. That's the trade-off that you have to be very comfortable with. It's all about understanding the big picture, being able to connect the dots and recognize patterns. Without this step here, being self-aware, there's no chance you can get really good at anything because you don't understand what to say no to so that you can say yes to that one thing that truly matters. Step number 3, change your circumstances, change your behavior. What does it mean in practice? It means I need to stop something in order to start something else. And last but not least, step number 4, remove everything from your way. Focus on that one thing. And this is really the hardest part. Outsource, delegate, and ignore everything that doesn't support your goal. And here's a practical tip for you. Let's say you have that numeric target in your mind. You want to earn $200 an hour, and now you make 20. Outsource, ignore, delegate everything that costs less than that aspirational target hourly rate that you just set. Literally. If there's a task that saves you 150, or it's going to cost less than that 200, ignore, outsource, delegate. You really need to get good at one thing. And people don't simply understand how much work and effort it takes to get really good at something. I had to learn this the hard way myself. Literally. I used to be a yes man. I had 3 or 4 different projects running simultaneously. And I still don't understand how I was able to scale my business up to 5 million with that multi-focus in mind. Imagine what I would have been able to do with singular focus. But since I've gone through that experience, now I can talk about it and share these lessons with you. But you really need to understand this. That's why we highlighted in the beginning that poor people with poor habits, they always spend their own time doing these little trivial tasks on a daily basis, and they are spreading themselves thin. If you really want to make a difference, be obsessed. Go all in on that one thing. People who give you that advice about diversifying, that's complete bullshit. It applies when you have that money. But before that, these 4 steps apply. You pick your goal, and then you understand what the trade-offs are. You have to say no to everything else. You need to let these fires burn so that you can really get good at that one thing. And then you go all in and you're obsessed. It's not easy, but it's doable. But first step is always to buy that time back for yourself so that you can really focus on one thing. Okay, so here in the end, I wanted to summarize our wealth creation habits by dividing these tasks and topics into past, present, and future. Let's start with the past. People with rich habits, they never blame anyone else. They know that all the answers are always in the mirror. They are grateful for everything and everyone. Losing is a blessing. What does that mean? Those of you who have been watching my videos know that this is one of my favorite topics. I like losing because we get humility. When we are humble, we are grateful. And when we have that gratitude, we can be happy at the end of the day. So that's why it's super important that we never shy away from any of those obstacles or those tiny losses. What about present? Buy yourself time. We talked about this. You really need that focus and dedication. Prioritize, say no. Be willing to say no to everything else. Let those fires burn. And then be obsessed. It's okay. Regardless of what your neighbors, your friends, or your relatives say. It's okay to be that dog who keeps chasing that bone no matter what. Future. If versus when. What does that mean? It means that what if I told you that if you follow these 4 steps, you prioritize, you buy yourself time, that it's not a matter of if you reach that numeric goal of $1 million, but it's only a matter of when you reach that. Would that bring comfort and joy in your life? At least in my case. When I know that if I keep grinding, I keep my head down, I execute every day like there's no tomorrow, eventually I'll get there. Skills beat everything. People are always willing to pay for them. No matter what happens with dollar, it might collapse. There might be sky-high inflation or AI might take over. Nobody knows. But if you have skills, you can always monetize them. No matter what the currency is. People might pay you in Bitcoin, dollar, gold, or I don't know, seashells. Whatever the currency is, you'll always be fine when you're investing in your own skills. Remember, most entrepreneurs are rich. They might not have a lot of money in their bank account, but they are on the right path by developing their financial intelligence and building those assets that can be monetized later. What about you? Want to be rich? Change your behavior today. Build those new habits and those new skills. And eventually you'll get there. Remember, it's not a matter of if, it's only a matter of when. If this hit home, please hit the like and the subscribe buttons. I would highly appreciate it. Like I mentioned in this video, I know time is your most valuable resource, so I highly appreciate all the attention I get. And let me know. Any comments, I promise to reply back to them. Thanks again, and I'll see you again next time.